Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
What's up, Doom Nation, and welcome back. You're listening to the Two Doom Men podcast. As always, it's Scagz and yours truly, the captain. And boy, things don't stay quiet for long, do they, pal?
They don't, yeah. We've been away for a little bit over a week. I was actually just on the Unfit Statesman's podcast. It was just me and him talking about some current events. Go check that out. That was fun. Zach's always a good time. It was a little bit more serious for once. You know Zach is, yeah. But we got to maybe without you, we didn't joke around as much. Yeah, so that was fun. Go check him out, Unfit Statesman. We got the 420 special coming up this Saturday. We're going to try and do that live here, multi-camera, a whole bunch of people in here. We'll have just some fun with that one. But today, we're going to be reading the news, as they say.
I promise you the 420 episode will be the exact opposite of this episode.
Yeah, definitely. You know, while we are here, we are live on YouTube and Twitter. If you are there and you want to partake, you could drop in on the comments, and I can actually bring them up on the screen now that we're using StreamYard. If you're listening to the pre-recorded version later on this week, check it out when we go live. It's a cool interactive experience. We're trying to do them on weekdays around 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We don't have like a specific day that we're going to be doing them on, just kind of whenever we have a chance when we schedule a guest. So, with that being said,
what do we got, pal? What are we talking about this week, huh?
So let's do the two main topics tonight are going to be the attack on Israel over the weekend by Iran, or perhaps I should say the counterattack by Iran on Israel.
Thank you.
Which we will get into. And then we're going to, I think the meat and potatoes of the episode tonight, we're going to talk about the FISA Act. It's on its way to being reauthorized through Congress and Senate with Trump's approval this time.
So many questions.
Sure. And if we have time, we'll do tweets of the week and perhaps get into a little bit of David Hogg finally getting called out on his bullshit for once in his life, which was entertaining.
By an immigrant that if he disagrees with, he's xenophobic.
Yeah,
and I don't know why the background is picking up like my head.
I don't know. Yeah.
I put a little extra moisturizer.
Did you? Yeah. Did you put on some foundation or something?
Maybe that's maybe. Gotta look sexy for Doom Nation.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, Cap. Let's interested to hear your take on this. I know you're kind of a little bit you're a little bit out of the loop this week. I mean, Garrett, of course, we're texting a million times.
Yep.
But Iran launched a really large attack on Israel, sending I think 300 and something suicide drones, ballistic missiles straight into Israel, kind of across the whole country, targeting a couple of military bases. It's definitely a major escalation in tensions in the region. I would say that much,
But what did we expect after what Israel did?
Sure, of course. There's always two sides to a story, and it's a tit for tat. Yeah,
it sadly is a tit for tat, and people already instantaneously forgot, never heard, or didn't even know that Israel, how long ago? 2-3 weeks ago now?
2 weeks ago now, yeah.
2 weeks ago, the entire world forgot what Israel did to Iran.
Yeah. So about 2 weeks ago, right?
To provoke this attack. This wasn't just I hate you, you hate me. Let's bomb everybody.
Right. But if you were, let's say, Ben Shapiro, this is where the attack begins. Go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't read anything old Ben has put out, but boy, at the beginning of this year, we were talking a lot about how it's now time to expose the right, and this is a pretty good episode where we're going to expose some of the GOP, the grand old party. But it is mind-numbing to see the 180, I guess, that Ben Shapiro has done, anti-woke savior to Israeli shill.
Yeah, anti-identitarian politics to everything is about his identity politics.
Yeah.
Look, that's fine, but don't pretend that you're not into identity politics. Then I think I made that point a couple times. So Ben Shapiro's his analysis of this entire situation was Iran did this because they believed there was daylight between the Biden administration and Israel. Daylight created by the absurd position of the United States trying to stop Israel from finishing off Hamas. That's Ben Shapiro's wise words of wisdom there.
Because we're going to stop killing Hamas that they needed to attack. It's insane because, I mean, me and you and the people who listen to this show pretty religiously, we understand that we're not being anti-Semitic here. Israel is looking to genocide Palestine. Right.
I wouldn't even use the word genocide.
That's how I feel.
That's fine. I'm not saying you could feel however you want. I wouldn't even use the word because I've seen anytime someone does, the conversation becomes retarded and it becomes like semantics over what genocide is or isn't. So I don't even want to reference
Fair
that.
Enough.
It doesn't get down to the meat and potatoes of the point. But I mean, what Ben Shapiro obviously is omitting here is the fact that 2 weeks ago Israel blew up. Airstruck the Iranian embassy in Syria and killed a couple of top brass, Iranian military guys. And if I screen grabbed it, I posted it on our socials. Ayatollah Khamenei's speech over, as this attack on Israel was occurring, and he directly cites that this was, like a response to that airstrike on the Syrian embassy there for Iran. So couple of here, let me throw a couple stats at you here, Cap. So first of all, I will say that watching some of the videos of the attack, like that Iron Dome system is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
I have to say.
Well, I just love the pictures of the Iron Dome going off and the ballistic missiles being shot, and it's my tax dollars and somehow also my tax dollars.
Yeah.
You know why they did this? Because it's today's April 16th. Everybody paid their taxes.
That's true.
Yes, so they got a lot of money coming to them.
They could refill all the ammunition they just spent. So a couple stats I got. The cost of defending this attack by Iran, all said and done, cost about $1.5 billion. So the attack by Iran cost, let's say, a combination of Israel and the United States, $1.5 billion to defend Israel. More than half of the shoot downs of suicide drones, ballistic missiles, and etc. were done actually by the U.S. military, not by the Iron Dome or Israel. I thought that was just such a interesting point in of itself, because I see it as Israel almost will act with impunity to some extent and do whatever they want. But then the risk of, or like the repercussions of their actions kind of get cleaned up by America, and America gets put at risk of their actions.
Yeah.
I heard somebody refer to it as they are socializing the costs of their actions onto America, onto us even, but through blowback.
Right now is the best time for a foreign nation to get into war and have America back you, because we will send you money. You won't have to use any of your own equipment. Won't have to use any of your own men unless we're not allowed there. But think of even if you push this to Ukraine and Russia, if Russia was to do this, it'd be all American, artillery protecting them as well. We're literally just shielding anybody that's at war right now, whether and I'll give it up and I'll say Ukraine might need our help, but Israel has a serious military that does not need us to be, conquering their airways for them.
Yeah, Israel's military is definitely way more bona fide, I'd say, than Ukraine's.
Yeah.
Especially defending itself, and we've seen it in action. Going back to Ben Shapiro's point, it's just so obviously fake and like a propaganda talking point. The United States military was active during this attack, shooting down more than half of the incoming, missiles and things. So like we're literally in the war on Israel's side in the moment, defending Israel. Like as I think Jordan even participated in helping shoot some things down. So the United Kingdom and France. Very interesting scenario, right? How everybody rushes to Israel's defense in this.
I said it the other day. I said, because like how Israel had this well-planned multi-layer attack ready to go, ready to launch, and I was like, these people must have been so fucking excited to just run around and be like, we get to shoot back. Oh, holy days. Yep. You know what I mean? Like, we get to use our toys. They must have been over the moon excited.
I think like the neocons and like the Likud, Netanyahu and them probably
that's what I'm talking about.
Somewhat excited, right? This is going to like justify everything they want to do, which is like war with Iran.
And the media will spin it to make it look like Iran, did this out of, searching for war.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you think it's a misstep by Iran? This kind of a little bit of an over the top missile strike. I mean, they did announce it ahead of time. Which is very weird. It was announced
a conspiracy in itself. Yeah. Yes and no. Yes, because it pushes us this much closer to World War III, where it gives the media more stories to propagandize, more conspiracies to be developed, more disinformation, more aid, more this, more, So I say, yes, they did overstep their bounds, but coming as a nation where you were just attacked because there was obviously just the opportunity to attack, you kind of do got to strike back. They lost some military brass. Should they have just let this slide under the rug? Some could say, I could see the argument for yes, but we're talking about Iran. They're not really interested in doing that.
I'm seeing people say, that there's a lot of domestic pressure for the regime to do something. I think one of the things that gets lost, particularly on conservatives and even some America First types, is that Muslim people in the region, they care about the Palestinians. It's not just your college leftist moron in the United States. I'm friends with many Muslim people, Bengalis, Pakistanis. I've spoken to them in the past, way before any of these tensions ever rose up to this level that they're at right now. And like, they know all about this shit. Like, they're not an uneducated moron. They know all about the history. They care. They see, like Muslim people, they have like a sense of honor. Something I've learned. If you could look back to like, what was it? World War One. Lawrence of Arabia, dealing with them and kind of like learning how they deal mostly on like the honor system and not on the English contract system. Yeah, nice bird shit on your head there.
Yeah, I know, bro.
Like it's fine. Anyway, this is something that irks them. They see their their brethren being oppressed and at the hands of the Israeli regime. So there is a real cost amongst your population to whatever the government or regime is to kind of not at least pretend to do something. So I think that's like a pretty valid point that the Iranian regime felt like they probably had to do something just to appease the population. I think there might be something to that. Now the other talking point around this, which I'll be interested to run off of you, is that there is a difference between what Israel did and now what Iran did, right? So people are trying to make like a moral difference between just striking an embassy and killing a couple of top brass, and then raining hellfire on an entire country, kind of somewhat indiscriminately.
Just whoever you kill, kill.
Yeah. And so people are making that point that, this isn't a proper response to what we did before, so it's not right. What do you think about that argument?
Yeah, but there would still be an argument if Iran targeted Israeli top military brass. You know what I mean? This moral ground argument is just going to come with any topic we talk about.
Sure.
That's the political, cultural landscape of today. What's the moral high ground? I must be right because I'm morally correct. Do I disagree with it? No. I mean, Israel killed military brass, which you join the military. This is a possibility. You might be walking into a building and that building gets drone strike. This is how we fight wars in 2024. I'm sorry, it's how it is. And there is an argument to, that it was an overstep that they went after just regular, innocent people just indiscriminately bombing the country. So I can see where this argument's coming from, but no, at the end of the day, no, this is war. There's casualties of war. Someone's going to do something heinous to make headlines. Somebody's going to be looking to send a message. And you know what? Maybe because they killed the top brass, they were like, this is a good idea. Well, you killed all the guys that were going to be like, no, this is a bad idea. This is how we hit them.
Yeah. I think that I kind of agree with the sentiment of that. There is a difference, obviously, of striking a couple guys who signed up for this and then random people who didn't sign up for this. The thing is, that's the same fucking point I'm making when it comes to Gaza and the Palestinians, right? And who is the one who is really, if you look at just the photo fucking evidence of everything that's going on in Gaza, it's Israel's doing the same shit to them.
Yeah.
In a sense, it's indiscriminate bombing, leveling
Isn't
the
it
whole
funny
city.
the second you taste your own medicine, you don't like it?
Right. It's a very hypocritical point for defenders of that to then be making people who are defending their actions there in Gaza. Not to mention something I don't think people think about what's going on there, like the costs later on of doing that. Like imagine imagine like this town you live in gets completely erased off the map and like you survive, but like there's no infrastructure, there's no school, there's no hospital, your house is erased. What are like your prospects going
becoming
forward?
a future terrorist?
Yeah, right. I mean, but like you have besides that, you have like no future like bright prospects. There's going to be like long-term costs, just like with the lockdowns and COVID. Right, like all the things they did have are going to have like a negative long-term effect of not making kids go to school for a couple of years and things like that. Now, this is just to like the extreme level of literally just erasing the place that people live instead of just locking down their schools or something like that. So, yeah, I feel like that argument is just being used as
that's pretty
I'm
good.
right, you're wrong because I'm right and you're wrong. That's
well, that's why this whole moral argument, we could do this for any situation we talk about. Yeah, it's a pathetic tool that they use, against free thinkers and people who want to actually let cooler heads prevail. Yep.
So last I heard, Israel is, like they're discussing their response. I know there's been
the last. Didn't Iran say like that's it, we're done? Yes. Like we got which is funny that they put that out there because like Iran might be done, but Israel's not.
Yeah. Last I heard today, they are like drawing up their response attack, whatever that's going to be. How long is it going to be for that to happen? Who knows? It could be tomorrow. It could be a couple weeks.
This is just strategic strikes leading up to the election to cause chaos for the election. I wish I had a fucking hat in here. My God, hold on a second.
Are you going to put on a keffiyeh now? Or are you a fucking Hamas supporter? Is that what that is? Oh, man, look at this guy. He's got a Palestinian keffiyeh. The right-wing Marjorie Taylor Greene types are going to freak out when they see that. You wearing that.
Fuck you, technology. I win.
I don't know, man. Zach was asking me the other day if I think this is going to turn into World War III, and I told him, I don't think it's going to, but can it? Yes, definitely.
It's I hate to think that we're the center of the universe here in America, but Biden, I've said it a million times, Biden needs World War III. So even if this isn't going to lead to World War III, they're going to try and make it lead to World War III.
Yeah. I mean, is there probably something to that? Does Biden need World War III? Yeah. I think Netanyahu needs World War III more than Biden needs it, right? Like, it justifies everything he wants to do. Everything the lobby created around his entire party and everything the neocons have stood for. I've played the tape before. Why we're going to war. We're going to war with 7 countries in the next 10 years, toppling, culminating with, was it General Wesley Clark, culminating with getting rid of Iran at the end. Like, they want that so bad. I think more so than Biden, who at least on its face has been signaling to Netanyahu and the government, like, calm down, relax, don't
Yeah.
respond. You guys took, I think they said you guys took a win, with the defense. So only like seven missiles got through or whatever. I think now they kind of backtracked and said Israel will do whatever it wants. We don't tell them what to do, which is funny. Like in the last 2 days, they completely reversed their opinion. Also,
because they needed to say that at the time, and now they need to say the truth.
And regardless of whatever, like the gravy train does not ever stop. The only way you're going to get them to, if you are like funding a country, literally paying for everything they do, the only way you're going to, exert any influence over them is by pulling the plug. Whatever funding you give them, like, hey,
right?
If you're not going to do what we want, we're not going to.
We have people in power right now that have no interest in pulling the plug.
Oh, I know.
They
what I'm trying to say is,
enjoy funding this.
Unless if you're Biden and you're here trying to like virtue signal to your voting base to try and get them to vote for you in the election, that you're acting tough with Netanyahu. You're not. That's nothing but just bluster. Unless you're actually going to like pull some funding, you're not actually really doing anything.
Exactly.
Forget about even that. Like you literally were an active participant in defending the country from the attack here. So it's beyond even just funding at this point. For all our criticisms of Ukraine, we haven't done that. Right? We haven't.
Because that would actually start World War III.
Right, we haven't flown missions like over Crimea, shooting down drones or anything like that ourselves. But for Israel, we do. So I think that's even an interesting point in of itself. Definitely.
We're not out of the Middle East. Never going to be.
Yep. All right. Any other points you want to make on this? It's hard. We gotta let it play out. Unfortunately.
Yeah. No.
Obviously, I think the right position would be just to divest ourselves from the fucking situation completely.
Yeah.
Try and force them to make peace with the Palestinians.
We'll definitely be talking about this again, but they're not interested in making peace. Come on.
Yeah.
We know that. Right.
Meat and potatoes of the show. Let's move on to FISA.
What a word soup of emotions and things that have gone on with this.
The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. Those of you might remember it from such films as Donald Trump 2016, Donald Trump 2020. This is the thing that they used to spy on his campaign. He says it all the time. Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, right? We've talked about this a lot lately, even with TikTok. They'll just claim anyone is working with the foreign agent. Like they'll just cook up whatever justification they can to bend whatever tools or rules they've created in order to like get what they want. I thought we would start off with this one though. Like I was telling you, I feel like we got to be accurate here.
You want to start off with Scott Horton?
Yeah, not even Scott Horton. This one really, I love this. This is from the GOAT himself, Ron Paul, on antiwar.com. Ron Paul, look at that. Write an article. Someone who's been warning about these sorts of things his entire fucking life. He's dedicated his whole life to trying to wake people up about the dangers of giving government power. So I'm going to read a little bit. It's not that long. Here Ron Paul has to say. He says, FISA exchanges real liberty for phantom security. House Speaker Mike Johnson betrayed liberty and the Constitution by making a full court press to get a clean reauthorization of Section 702 of the FISA Act through the House. Section 702 authorizes warrantless surveillance of foreign citizens. When the FISA Act was passed, surveillance state boosters promised that 702 warrantless surveillances would never be used against American citizens. However, intelligence agencies have used a loophole in 702, allowing them to subject to warrantless surveillance any American who communicated with a non-U.S. citizen who was a 702 target. Intelligence agencies could then also conduct warrantless surveillance on any Americans who communicated with the new American target. You see how this thing kind of like webs out?
Yep.
You just, like you could have made contact with one person one time.
Could have just started following your cool Instagram page.
Yeah, right. And, like what even constitutes contact?
Yeah.
That's a good question. The Section 702 loophole has been used so often to subject Americans to warrantless wiretapping that it has been referred to as the surveillance state's crown jewel. A bipartisan coalition of Republican and Democratic House members worked to add a warrant requirement to the FISA bill. Speaker Johnson agreed to allow a vote on the House floor on an amendment requiring federal officials to get a warrant before subjecting any Americans to surveillance. However, he publicly opposed the amendment, as did President Biden. Prominent deep state operatives, such as former Secretary of State, CIA Director Mike Pompeo, also lobbied against the amendment. The case against adding a warrant requirement to FISA consisted of hysterical claims that forcing the surveillance state to obey the Fourth Amendment that you have to get a warrant in order to do anything like this, would make Americans vulnerable to terrorist attacks. Particularly, the claim was made that forcing national security operatives to get a warrant before spying on U.S. citizens would cripple the ability to respond to a ticking time bomb situation.
There's no ticking time bomb.
I'll pause there for a minute too. Like, just I was thinking
it's mass hysteria. They're just it's the fear mongering playbook, just like they did with COVID. You know, and for anybody in Congress to read this and believe this, that like, oh, fuck the Fourth Amendment. There's a ticking time bomb. We got to throw the Fourth Amendment out the window and spy on Americans to protect Americans. Red flag. Red flag.
Of course. While I read this and while I'm thinking about this whole thing, they will, their justification for this is to protect us from terrorism, right? And in a sense, protect us from blowback, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the reasons why I'm opposed to what Israel is doing to the Palestinians and us funding for it, right? Is because, yes, that could possibly, result in blowback against American citizens, where some Hamas guy comes and blows himself up in America and kills a whole bunch of innocent people because we are the ones funding it. They won't acknowledge that reality of the scenario, though, that their policy could possibly lead to blowback. Like, they won't acknowledge that. However, they will use, they will justify terrorism as an excuse for, warrantless spying on people, right? So again, it's the self-licking ice cream cone. They're creating the problem, then they're selling themselves as the answer to it. Except in the scenarios, they don't acknowledge the problem they're creating,
right?
But then they're saying they need tools to fight the problem that they don't acknowledge that they create.
And it's funny how they want warrantless searches for Americans because they label it national security. Yeah, the whole thing is based on national security. But what's going on at the southern border is not national security,
right? Yeah,
So we don't even know what constitute as contacting a 702 foreign asset or whatever it's called. It could simply just be, I follow this person on Twitter. They make good points. And now
I'm sure that's what it is. Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? Like,
I follow Ayatollah Khomeini. That's how I saw what he had to say about his attack the other day. Am I now going to be subject to warrantless search by FISA? Probably.
Yeah, probably. And then everybody that comes on the podcast, they have the right to then now.
Right. Our entire network of friends, every single person I've ever spoken to.
And for Congress to look at this and be like, yes, this is the right way is wild. For Trump, Mike Johnson, anyone to look at this and be like, this is the correct way to do things is insane.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. I'll read a little bit more here from Ron Paul. These claims were debunked by the heroic Edward Snowden, who made the American people aware of the extent of warrantless surveillance. Snowden, who worked as a government contractor for the NSA, posted a message on X that the warrant amendment would not stop federal agencies from acting without a warrant in a ticking time bomb situation. A vote was held Friday afternoon on the amendment requiring a warrant before Section 702 powers would be used to spy on American citizens. Despite the fear-mongering by Mike Pompeo and others, as well as the opposition of both President Biden and Speaker Johnson, the amendment failed to pass by only one vote. The amendment, it was like two. I think it was like
I know it was tied, and then Mike Johnson fucked himself hard.
Johnson's vote, you could say, was
it was the deciding factor.
The amendment would have passed had Speaker Johnson not cast a rare floor vote. Speakers usually do not vote on legislation against the amendment. When the Patriot Act was rushed to the House floor in the fall of 2001, weeks after 9/11, and voted upon before members had a chance to read it, only 3 Republicans voted against it. One conservative representative told me he voted for it even though he agreed with my opposition to the bill. He told me, I can't go back home and tell my constituents I voted against the Patriot Act.
All because of the name. You get a shiny name, a nice little, something that looks good on paper. How can you vote against it?
Look, that's a real
it's just proof right there that they just named these wild bills like something that, like, if you go against it, it'll be bad headlines.
Like, that makes a little bit more sense to me, given the time that was in, where it was like America, or hoorah.
Yeah, everybody had an American flag. Yeah,
FISA, right? And it's a dirty word at this point, especially on the Republican side of things, because of how they use FISA. Trump has made it a dirty word. So like that excuse doesn't even work here. That sounds cool. America cheeseburger, hot dog, machine gun bill or something like that. The white pill here that Ron Paul gives us is while the failure to pass the warrant amendment was dispiriting, the fact that it failed by only one vote shows how much progress we have made. It should thus inspire us to keep encouraging Congress to refuse to take away real liberty in the name of promises of phantom security. Well, Ron Paul will never leave us without some sort of optimistic note there. That's pretty shocking, right? Going from it is when you really think about it. For people who are nihilistic and think that they're nothing's ever changing or whatnot. I mean, Ron Paul has a point. They went from 3 to 212.
Yeah,
it only took 20 fucking 3 years.
Yeah,
it's better than nothing.
Yeah. What was that? So then they motioned to vote on it again or something. That happened yesterday, right? What happened with that now?
Yeah. So I think they brought it again to the floor to try and stop it from happening, and it got struck down harder on the second try. So like it wasn't as close on the second try. It got struck down harder.
So people voted. More people voted
for it.
You know what that just tells me? So I listened to a little bit of Tim Pool's last episode, and they were talking about this, and they had a great guy on. I wish I remember his name.
Oh, was it Dennis Kucinich, maybe?
Yeah, he was an older gentleman. He was in Congress for a long time. He was mayor of Ohio at 30 or something.
Good guy.
Yeah. Very interesting, very intelligent guy. Had a lot of awesome things to say. They were talking about how originally Mike Johnson was, openly opposed to this bill.
Yes.
And then they took him in the back room and he voted in favor for it. What happened in the back room? He says he saw unclassified this and that, blah, 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 and that's why he voted for it. They kicked your ass back there, pal. And what it tells me now with the second vote on Monday, the same people who kicked Johnson's ass kicked a bunch more ass over the weekend and changed everybody's goddamn vote. Either your wheels got greased or you got threatened.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? What was the classified stuff they showed Mike Johnson? Was it a different angle of the Kennedy assassination, perhaps? Maybe that was the classified information they showed Mike Johnson, like a warning, like, hey, you don't do this, We'll Jack Kennedy your ass real quick.
We will unalive you in a heartbeat.
I wanted to show what Ed Snowden has. He is a hero of mine, or what he said on Twitter. And he said, the White House is calling the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution a threat to national security. This is a real memo sent out today. The yellow highlighted sections just translate euphemism, the Biggs Amendment, to plain language. Biggs warrant required. Source below. So this is the memo that the White House put out, where they say the warrant requirement is a threat to national security. The Constitution's Fourth Amendment would eviscerate the value of Section 702.
Section 702 is stronger than the Constitution, clearly.
Yeah, to the deep state. Yeah, requiring a warrant would impose dangerous limits on the ability to review critical intelligence on key threats, including terrorist threats to the homeland, fentanyl supply chain, bringing down deadly drugs into American communities, Russian war crimes, and hostile governments, recruitment of spies. Look, man, just from my Trump MAGA supporting friends out there, and you don't agree with FISA being, reauthorized here, look what they're just keep in mind what they're using here to try and make you scared and support this. They mentioned fentanyl in here, even, right? I don't know. That just makes me question more the narrative around the fentanyl panic as well. Then
they know where the fentanyl's coming from, aka the southern border, but it's not a problem then. It's a problem. Yeah. Fentanyl's a problem if you need to get a warrant to secretly spy on American citizens, but fentanyl is not a problem if you're shipping it across the southern border.
This memo, right? Yeah, this memo's from the White House, and they're in the memo trying to scare you with fentanyl supply chains bringing deadly drugs into American communities, like you're saying. But at the same time, they're not actually doing anything to shore up the border. But then they're using the fentanyl talking point to try and scare you into supporting a thing that erodes the Fourth Amendment and lets the government spy on you without getting a warrant.
Erode is a weak word.
Yeah. I mean, Have we set it up enough here that this smells like shit?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just go back to one of the first episodes where we talked about being censored on Twitter and how it's a slippery slope and what's going to happen with people having their voices censored on social media, on any form of media. You were censored and you lost your First Amendment right. And here we are, maybe a year later, maybe 2 years later, you'd say. And we're talking about having your Fourth Amendment taken away.
Yeah. And the thing is,
it could happen, people. Just, obviously everybody who's listening, already knows this, but if you want to share with a friend, like, look, we already had our First Amendment attacked. Here is a clear path to have our Fourth Amendment attacked.
The thing is, like, the Fourth Amendment's already been eviscerated. Like, the
FISA
program has already been in effect. Now we're just trying to get rid of it. And Republicans are the ones who are going to be kind of the obstacle in not getting rid of it after it was used against them.
Which is insane.
Just like the Patriot Act. It's literally like they're getting an opportunity. You know how everyone knows now at this point that the Patriot Act was used against Trump supporters, MAGA people, etc. And this as well literally was used against Trump. And they had an opportunity here to do something about it, and they literally did it. Yeah. This is what fucking frustrates, and we'll get a little bit more into that here in a moment. This is what I can't stand about the MAGA crowd. It's like, we'll let Trump speak for himself, and then we'll give comments. But like, just the man sitting in the desk doesn't actually fix anything.
Yeah.
Right. Like, there's things that need to be done after that, if he even does get in there, in order to fix things. Like, things don't just get better because somebody's,
there's a new president and we like him.
Yeah. Like, like things.
Oh, the cool guy's here. He'll take care of it. Yeah. No,
it's not how it works. Right. And we'll get into that. So, thoughts before I play the next couple of videos and things like that? No,
because we're leading up to my line of questioning that I would like to see what you got in store for.
Okay. So this is I got three 2 videos and a tweet. We're going to do a video tweet from Laura Loomer and then a video of Trump and Johnson together. But we're going to start off with Speaker Mike Johnson. He's on, I should say she. He's on Maria Bartiromo's show, and he's talking about this FISA thing.
Former President Trump has talked about the possibility of turning aid for Ukraine into a loan. Is that what you're considering?
Sorry. The second part of this, which we completely forgot at this point, was the Ukraine funding, and Trump, like, kind of backtracking a little bit on that. So that's part of this whole thing, which we'll get into in a little bit.
Yes, I had a great visit with him at Mar-a-Lago on Friday, and he and I are 100% united on these big agenda items. And when you talk about aid to Ukraine, he's introduced the loan lease concept, which is a really important one that I think has a lot of consensus, as well as these other ideas, the Repo Act, which we've discussed, which is seizing the assets of corrupt Russian oligarchs to help pay for this resistance. I think these are ideas that I think can get consensus, and that's what we've been working through. We'll send our package, we'll put something together and send it to the Senate and get these obligations completed. Yeah, the president and I agree on the necessity of the uses of FISA. Remember, that's how we kill terrorists. That's how we stop terrorist plots on U.S. soil. That's why we haven't had another 9/11 since that terrible tragedy. President Trump used it, and he reauthorized it in 2018 for 6 years, and that's why it's up again. What we did was we changed the bill to fit his requirements and ours, and that is that it would expire now 2 years from now in the middle of his next administration. So he's the one that gets to determine if it's working well. It's a critical tool to stop terrorism. The whole point of the law is that we surveil foreign persons, foreign terrorists. But the reason the warrant requirement is not helpful, and the reason that people that we love and respect, like Mike Pompeo and John Ratcliffe and Robert O'Brien and Devin Nunes, who've been in the intelligence community, and our guys, our conservatives, who came off Judiciary Committee, a couple of them, they said you can't put the warrant on this.
So, next one. What is Laura Loomer, one of Trump's biggest supporters? I can't take that away from her as much as I criticize her all the time. What does she have to say about that? She says, on Maria Bartiromo just now, Speaker Johnson said, President Trump is with me 100%. That's not true. Donald Trump said, kill FISA. They spied on my campaign. Speaker Johnson supported FISA. I don't know why these people go on TV and lie about their relationship with Trump. Okay. Fair point. Mm-hmm. Let's see what Trump actually had to say.
Please.
So hang on real quick for those who are listening. So this is what Mike Johnson was referring to when he was meeting with Trump.
Yeah, at Mar-a-Lago.
At Mar-a-Lago, and this is so we're kind of going a little bit in reverse order here, but there's a reason why I did that. I'm kind of like exposing it for you. This is Trump commenting on this with Mike Johnson to his right, for those who are listening.
Please. Which one? Well, I'm not a big fan of FISA. I looked at it and I studied it, and I know it probably better than anybody.
Better than anyone.
In my campaign, you do know that, right? And they did lots of other bad things. I'm not a big fan of FISA, but I told everybody, I said, do what you want. They put a lot of checks and balances on, and I guess it's down to 2 years now, so that it would come due in the early part of my administration on the basis that we live up to the polls, because all the polls, we just had another one come out, we're leading by a lot, but it comes out quickly. I said, you do what you want, but I'm not a big fan of FISA. I think it's terrible. Please.
Do what you want. Strong position there.
Yeah.
By Trump.
You know, where do I even go with this? I wish I could have commented after the first video.
Sure.
You know, yeah, it's not a strong position. First off, also Trump supporting aid to Ukraine in any fashion is mind-blowing, and this is coming from the resident Trump supporter. I don't mind the idea of a lease, so I am going to do what every MAGA Republican Trump supporter does and back Trump just for the sake of doing it. For argument's sake, I do, like, you know, I sat back and I was like, okay, if he supports FISA and he supports like aid to Ukraine, like, I curse Dave Smith's name for not fucking running. I don't care that you got a family. You needed to run now, or you needed to campaign now and get your stance and your ideas out there. It's going to be too late by 2028. You know, so like, who the hell? I was just like, well, I can't vote for Joe Biden. I'm not going to vote for RFK. We don't know who is going to be running the libertarian ticket. Like, so like, shit, now I still have to like vote for somebody who supports Ukraine in this manner. But for argument's sake, to back Trump up, I look at it as the idea of putting them on a loan comes with an audit. And this is how they trap them. This is how they expose them, potentially. I don't know. It's all for argument's sake at this point. And then even with the FISA, it would end at the beginning of his presidency if he is elected.
At the end of the second year of his presidency.
There we go.
Next presidency.
Okay, so I thought it was at the beginning. I'm sorry. You know, well, then that sounds like he's going to ruthlessly use FISA to complete, you know, scorch earth, payback anybody here, you know, that was corrupt. So, you know, Biden gets out of office. Well, Biden was in contact, or Hunter Biden was in contact with a 702 foreign adversary. Well, you know, Joe Biden was in contact with him. So now we could just knock the house. The weapon they tried using against him, he will use against them properly and correctly to drain the swamp. But this is another argument that's going to happen tomorrow. There's going to be world peace tomorrow. Q's coming tomorrow. Trump can do no wrong. I don't agree with it. He should have just got up there and been like, fuck FISA. Destroy it all. Shatter it into 1,000 pieces and throw it into the wind, like Kennedy said.
Yeah, this would be the argument, James, if we had him on from Either People Radio, probably would have told us, right? That like it's 4D chess. You got to do this in order to use it against them. The counter I will make to that is that Trump is in court right now. They're trying to throw him in prison. I think he is a very smooth political operator. I'm really coming to appreciate that. Funny enough, I just saw this afternoon after his court appearance where he now can't even leave, apparently. Like he can't leave.
Yeah, if he misses one day of this court, he will be arrested. And in like a few weeks, his son Barron is graduating high school or whatever.
Yeah.
And boy, I hope Trump's just like, middle finger, and goes to it and really pushes, you know, how far do you want to take this?
Sure. The point I was trying to make is he's a smooth operator when it comes to politics. This is just happening today. He had court. They won't let him leave now. He's stuck in New York City. Where did he go this afternoon? Harlem. He went to Harlem, right? And he went to a bodega, which is one of these bodegas where a guy basically almost got thrown in prison for defending himself against a criminal. That is very, very slick. Right, it's very wise. I'm not. It's a positive.
He's going to pop up in the Bronx, and we got to be down there, man.
he is being unfairly targeted by, the regime, New York City's corrupt criminal justice system, and he goes to a neighborhood where the African American community has also historically been unfairly, you could say, targeted by the New York City justice system. He's trying to appeal to some voters there and back up, self-defense. So he's not dumb in that regard. He's a very smooth political operator, right? But the fact remains that, yes, they are still weaponizing the justice system against him. I don't know if I believe, just given the 4 years, the first time and the appointments, he has not demonstrated to me that he understands that aspect of things, how far perhaps they really are willing to go to get him. I can't rationalize this. I'm sorry. And to this extent, like, again, to this point in time so far, I'm waiting for something. Show me something. Demonstrate to me that you have learned from the mistakes of the first time and that you are here now to, really be a wrecking ball.
There's the 4D chess for you. He's playing stupid and drawing them in.
That's such a lazy argument. It's foolproof, right? Like you're in a sense
anything he does,
And I know they might even I know some Trump supporters will make the argument of like, well, he's campaigning for president right now, so he's trying to win over votes by alienating me and other people who want to see justice against the system. Like, that's not going to win over my vote. That's going to win over who? People who want to throw him in prison. I don't think you're winning those people over.
No.
So no. I just don't buy that. I'm like in the scenario that we're in, like I'm rooting for him to win and beat these people in the court cases and things like that. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope that this is 4D chess with this many times. And he's somehow going to get in there and motherfuckers, I got you. Right. And use everything against them and whatnot. That has not been demonstrated to me yet by any comments he's made, nor was it his actual first 4 years track record in office by putting people like Pompeo in charge of the CIA. Yeah. And even here, working with Johnson, right? Like, the fucking guy is obviously a swamp rat, right? And he's there. I'm in 100. This is why I brought up the Laura Loomer thing. Me and Trump are in 100% agreement.
Yeah, when he's
and you play the video. No, I mean, it seems like they are, though. When you play the video, they're standing next to each other. They're meeting together. They literally are agreeing on both points they're making, the Ukraine funding and the FISA support. It seems like they are. It really does. And just, again, like, that's an opportunity you could have taken to demonstrate to me that, fuck this guy. Let's get him out of there. And let's put Thomas Massey right in there or something like that.
That's who I was thinking to run.
Me and Thomas Massey have had our disagreements in the past over policy and principle. But you know what? I've learned. And I'm going to put people in there who really want to damage the system. No, instead, we're going to do everything Mike Johnson wants to do. Please give me a fucking break.
So isn't Mike Johnson going to have to step down now?
They're
trying to
movements going on in the background.
So let me ask you this. Sure. Now, I mean, I kind of already have my answer. It's like a 3-part question, but it could all just be put. What justifies Congress or Trump or Mike Johnson or the GOP to actually vote in favor of this? Because we've spent almost 10 years now talking about how FISA they spied on Trump, they spied on his campaign, the GOP has had such great disdain about this, and now we about face in the final hours over here, or once we're in Infinity War right now, we're getting to the end game here. What justifies this going on that you could sit back and be like, yeah, fuck the Fourth Amendment. Meanwhile, for the past 6-7 years, you've been fighting for the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Constitution. The heart of America. You've been fighting for even allowing Trump to you know what I mean, to be in it. Do what you want. Blow up the Fourth Amendment. Do what you want. That's what gives everybody the justification that makes this so important. Because, see, like, for me and like Garrett and like James, we'll go to that 4D chess argument and this is to help us down the road. But like, from your perspective, what, like, outside, I don't want to go down the corruption route, but like, what justifies this?
I don't know what I mean? Justifies it, to be honest with you, because it hasn't been demonstrated to me that they're even thinking of things this way. What justifies Boromir taking the ring and using it for Gondor to fight Sauron? Nothing, because it wouldn't have fucking worked, right? At the end of the day. And that's like, it's a great analogy for what we have going on here. I think I don't think they think of it in terms of like it justifies it. I think they just think of probably we can use this and we could win by using this thing. I guess I'm just like Boromir would have thought. I
Right.
could use the ring against the enemies of Gondor. But I don't think they think of it in terms of what justifies it. I really don't. I think most people who are running for office, Trump included, and everybody else in government, majority of them, maybe not everybody, there's fucking sociopaths, right? And they're just on a quest for power. And some of them are better than others, right? I'm not trying to compare Trump to Joe Biden. But at the end of the day, even like RFK, sociopath.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think they think of things in the way that we think of them.
Which is
they're
insane that
they're on another level.
Stupid me over here sitting in my apartment just beating my head against the wall. Like, what justifies this? And people in Congress are like, nothing, bro. I got a paycheck. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Interesting coming from me, the anarchist, saying nothing would justify throwing away the Fourth Amendment, because I know a lot of anarchists will, and even I will agree that like the Constitution is just a construct, right? It's not real. Like you don't get struck down by lightning. But I understand that it is a construct and it only has value if people believe in it. If now even the good guys are bending the rules and don't believe in it, then what? I mean, hey, you know, like it's up to
what's the point if Trump comes back into office and he starts censoring liberals? You know, nothing's accomplished.
You know, that's not even what he's fucking. He's not. I'm
just taking it to a different.
I'd be on board with that at this point, right? That's not what he's proposing. That's not. I don't even know what he's proposing in this. Like, show me your plan. And like, this is one of the things I liked about Vivek. At least it's like, okay, well, here's my actual plan. I'm going to hire these people and fire these people by social security number. Demonstrate to me something. You see, he still hasn't really announced any, position picks or anything like that yet. That's going to be another opportunity to demonstrate to me you've learned something.
And then he's just going to load it up with swamp rats. Again,
please surprise me. I don't know. Right. We'll do another episode.
Mitch McConnell is
right. Yeah. We will see, man. We will see. I don't know. The other point of this, maybe I'll touch on real quick, is the Ukraine funding. I mean, it again, I've made this point many times on the podcast.
If Trump is on board with like you funding Ukraine, like there is something special that is hidden in Ukraine.
Do you think that Vladimir Putin is going to care about the difference between it being a loan or just unforgiven aid?
No. I do think Putin would care more who's in the Oval Office, though. As much as we agree that just because you're a guy in the chair doesn't mean you really change anything. But I think in a slight regard, Putin might like reach out, extend an olive branch, maybe or something.
But if you get to the point where you're actually just loaning them everything and give me an IOU, he's going to still see it as you're arming my opponent to try and destabilize me.
Yeah. It's still proxy war. Now it's a proxy war that you have to pay back at the end of the day.
He also referenced here using FISA to go after Russian nationals. That Trump was on board with that. These are all just more provocations towards Russia, which is, again, Putin has an axe to grind here over provocations towards him and his regime. Also, just like the historical aspect of it, I think they called it lease lend, perhaps. I think they called it, right? I just immediately thought of the Lend-Lease Act from World War II.
That's why they called it that.
Right, where we lent arms, tanks, munitions to the Soviet Union to fight the Germans, right? The Soviet Union, of all people, right?
How did that work?
Bold move, Cotton. That's... Republicans are also now in the game of, sweeping under the rug how bad the Soviet Union was to some weird way. Come on, man.
Well, the goal of modern communists is the Soviet Union. So, I mean, they're not beneath sweeping it under the rug.
Yeah. Look, how about just run honestly and be like, hey, I think we should end the war in Ukraine because it's bad because of X, Y, and Z. Here's why you should vote for me. Here's what I'm going to do to accomplish that. And maybe an overture of like, hey, Putin, hang on. I'm coming. I'm going to make things right. And we're all going to live happily ever after at the end, the end.
I think at this point, remember that scene from The Boys when they were about to expose Vought in court and everybody's head started exploding?
Yeah. Right,
okay. Yeah. I think now if you were a politician, to run truthfully, your head would explode on national TV.
That was like the AOC type character. in the boys. Maybe that's exactly what they did to Speaker Johnson. Like that bitch was in there, and they were like, "Hey, your fucking head want to explode? Then you better just go back out, turn your ass around, get out there and whip the fucking votes, buddy. And if it comes down to it, if it's you who's going to cast the deciding vote, your ass better vote in favor of reauthorizing the thing." So maybe that's what
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall when he got home or got back into his office and he just had to clean out that, shovel-sized shit in his underwear from voting in favor.
Yeah. All right, I think we'll move on to tweets of the week. We got one comment from DJ John. He said, "Gotta love prevention politics." When we were talking about the whole FISA thing. That's an interesting comment. Gotta love prevention politics. I don't know exactly what it's referring to.
That was something earlier on. I think it was the tail end of our Israel conversation.
Okay.
When that popped up.
All right. Let's move on to tweets of the week. You have a tweet, I believe.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Good boy. All right.
I sat there looking for a while and just nothing excited me, man.
Yeah.
Nothing gives me inspiration.
Start with mine. I got 3. This is a conversation I was involved in about Javier Milei. So Javier Milei met with Ben Shapiro. And
now Javier Milei is owned by Israel.
And had and there's been criticism of Javier Milei for he's very over the top aggressive when it comes to supporting Israel and things like that. This is very contrary to the American libertarian or the dominant American libertarian position. I've still been like, all right, well, words are just words. As long as he's not actually supporting them policy-wise or doing anything, I don't really care. More interested in his domestic policy. So let me set stage here. So Kyle Matovic said, awaiting the libertarian explanation why it's good that Milei is palling up to Ben Shapiro after cozying up to Anthony Blinken. So he also met with Anthony Blinken and spoke with him. Biden's Secretary of State. So Ludwig Nevermesis made a great fucking point. I never thought of things this way before. He goes, "I'll bite. I think the deep state is miscalculating the threat Milei's domestic reforms pose to their power relative to how much they value his tangential support for Israel, because they don't understand economics. And if they will support anyone who aligns with their geopolitical strategy, regardless of if they are an Islamic theocrat or an ANCAP in Argentina, apparently. It's also possible it's just his position, considering there are quite a few objectivists, ANCAPs, and libertarians who are supportive of Israel or use homesteading arguments like Block." Let me translate that into less autistic terms for you, Captain. The government will support Al-Qaeda and ISIS if it supports their geopolitical strategy.
Right.
What makes you think that they won't support an anarcho-capitalist president? If he doesn't,
they easily will. Yeah.
If his geopolitical strategy falls in line with theirs as well. If they're going to support Al-Qaeda in Libya and ISIS in Syria, damn it, they'll support an anarcho-capitalist in Argentina. I never thought of it that way before, but there might be something to that. There might even be something to that. And I don't know. Now we're going down the rabbit hole. Perhaps he's just feigning these positions geopolitically because he's playing some 4D chess. Maybe he's playing some 4D chess, right?
The man needs to survive.
I know I can accomplish my libertarian domestic policy, and they'll probably leave me alone if I just support the empire.
Well, this is the way, if I was the CIA and I looked at it, is, he supports Israel. That's good. Let's use him to support Israel. And then when we're done with Israel, because eventually we'll be done with Israel and it'll be out of the media, we'll just lead a coup against him and there'll be a new president of Argentina.
Yeah, maybe.
Let him support us where we need him to support, and then we'll spank him later.
Maybe, man. It's an interesting conundrum, his support for the empire, but then his near flawless domestic libertarian policy. We'll see. Keeping an eye on it. I'm not immune to a Javier Milei criticism. I definitely think that some of that is suspicious. So here's your tweet, Cap. What do you got?
It is from Cat Dirt. Where's Diddy? What happened to that story?
John?
They debanked Kanye for talking about Israel before there was even a war going on in Israel, and Diddy could get wrapped up in trafficking, and it's no longer a story, and he could live freely.
I have no evidence, but I think there is some merit to the point people have made where they were raiding Diddy's home to cover up stuff, not to get him in trouble. They went and got the tapes and the CDs and the discs and things like that, perhaps and they erased them now, threw them out, shredded them, whatever.
Didn't the FBI have Jeffrey Epstein's tapes for like 7 years before?
People had written stories and they were held back by, I forgot who. There was that
that
journalist who
woman,
wrote the story on it.
that female journalist. Yeah, she got fired because she wanted to run the story.
Yep. All right. 2 more. This is I sure did this one before. This is from Alex Jones. And Alex Jones said, the bright side is that world wars are the only ones we win.
Yeah, I saw this one.
A great fucking point. Yeah.
You know,
can't think of a war we've won since World War II. I don't think we won a single one.
Back-to-back World War champions, man. Let's go for the Triple Crown.
Drew in a stalemate in Korea. We definitely lost Vietnam. I guess you could say that we won the first Iraq war, right? But then we kind of lost the second one, so it's all kind of the same Iraq war. We obviously lost the war in Afghanistan.
Well, we weren't trying to win that one. We were just trying to funnel as much money through it as possible.
We only win wars that we actually declare war. When Congress the World War II is the last time we actually declared war. Maybe there's a reason for that. Perhaps.
Yeah, because we actually had to do something about it. Yeah.
All right. And then my last one is from Rothmus. All right. So Rothmus tweets a screen grabbed a tweet that got deleted the other day by Penny. So the tweet's really by Penny. And Penny goes, the amount of people not understanding this is going to be used to kill trans and queer people is making me lose my mind. And what Penny is talking about is the Florida Senate committee has unanimously passed a bill that would give the death penalty to those who commit sexual crimes against children. Penny is saying the amount of people not understanding this is going to be used to kill trans and queer people is making me lose my mind.
Yeah, so she's saying trans and queer community are all pedophiles.
Right. What's being said there exactly?
This is what you know how like it's a avert racism, now it's like avert homophobia or something like that. All people who are queer and LGBT are pedophiles then.
Yeah. What point are you trying to make here exactly, Penny?
Right.
I don't even believe that point.
I don't think she honestly understands what's going on. You know what I mean? Like it's clear to us.
Yeah, she deleted her account real quick after this.
Yeah, because I mean, it clearly says when you sexually abuse or commit a sexual crime against a child, you'll be given the death penalty. Not you're trans, you'll be given the death penalty.
Right. Yeah.
Does she think like we're gonna go on like these old gay bashing tours and just be like, oh, he's trans, he must be a pedophile, kill him?
Maybe. Either that or they're just saying the quiet part out loud. I don't know, man. Hard to tell, but found this one interesting. All right.
All right. Doom Nation, thank you guys for listening. DJ John 99, thank you for participating. We will be back later this week with a 420 party.
Saturday. We're going to shoot for 8 o'clock. We're going to try and do it live. We're going to be here in person with multiple people, multi-camera.
We should try earlier so we could party, but whatever.
We'll try and do it earlier. Yeah, it's hard when you got a bunch of people coming around for a stoner holiday. Not everyone's on time. A lot of them are Puerto Rican. Those guys are always late to everything. So we'll see.
Doom Nation, check that out coming next week. Check out Scagz on the Unfit Statesman. He did a great job. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Scagz, any final words?
Adios.
Peace out, everybody.